Good morning and welcome to Football League World TV. My name is Ned Holmes and this is the EFL Midweek Review Show. This morning I'm joined by two very happy colleagues in Marcus Ali and Adam Jones to break down the best of the midweek action in the Championship, League One and League Two. How are you doing this morning, Adam?
Yeah, not bad, thank you. As you say, delighted with the result with Reading last night. Very unexpected after a 4-0 thrashing at Rotherham, but I guess that's just vintage Reading Football Club, really.
And what about you, Marcus?
Yeah, very well, thanks, Ned. The ups and downs of the EFL and supporting an EFL club are relentless, and yeah, no signs of that changing in the first 4 games.
Absolutely. Well, EFL football back under the lights this week in the Championship, League One and League Two. We'll get our sort of teeth cut into that in a second. Before we get started, just a reminder, as always, please do like and share this video. Subscribe to Football League World TV on YouTube if you haven't already, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. Were you at a game this week? What are your thoughts on how your club got on? Well, we'll start in the Championship and with last night's game on Sky Sports. Sheffield United 2, Sunderland 1. Amadozic, rather, and Lowe with the goals either side of half time for the Blades. Lyndon Gooch gets one back for Sunderland, who fought hard but really weren't able to get past Dan Neil's red card and the half-hour mark. I'll come to you, Marcus, on that red card, the first of many on the show. What are your thoughts on the decision?
I thought it was pretty clear-cut to me, denying a clear goal-scoring opportunity. It's the old sort of last man rule, but he's outside the box, so double jeopardy doesn't come into play. James McAtee is going to run through on goal and have a clear shot, which definitely quantifies as a goal-scoring opportunity. And yeah, it's a tug back from Neil, the guilty party, after a bad first touch. He's just tried to recover from that, a bit too eager. Yeah, certainly some naivety, probably a challenge that he doesn't make after a few more years playing week in, week out. So just after the half-hour mark, it was one that was going to be really tough for Sunderland to come back from, especially in the Bramall Lane cauldron that's been so difficult for so many teams. So yeah, a tough one for Sunderland to take. Neil will miss the next game, potentially give an opportunity for someone like Jay Matete to show what they can do at Championship level. So yeah, disappointing from his point of view, and it was a fairly even game until that point, it seems. So yeah, I think just a tackle that he probably wouldn't have made if he was a little bit more experienced, one he'll look back on and hopefully learn from.
Yeah, absolutely. Adam, coming to you, obviously Sunderland going to be disappointed coming away with a 2-1 defeat. Alex Neil billed it ahead of the game as their hardest game of the season. Hard to argue with him there. But Sunderland come out of this with a fair bit of credit.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, as Marcus said, it was reasonably even up until the red card, and I'm kind of agreeing with Marcus, really. I don't think Neil can really have any complaints. I think it was a clear-cut goal-scoring opportunity. There was no real attempt to play the ball, so he can't really have any kind of defence, really. And then they were kind of hit with a sucker punch, really, soon after. Amadozic, I thought he was absolutely superb, playing obviously a big part in the first goal with his goal, and then the second goal as well with his assist and getting forward. And yeah, I think in the end they just suffered with the red card. I think even Sheffield United going forward for the second goal, the fact that they had the confidence to get a centre back in the opposition box. I know that they probably overlap anyway, the centre backs, but yeah, I think that they had the confidence to get forward, and in the end, it's hard enough come to Bramall Lane with 11 men, let alone 10 men. So in the end, yeah, I just think that the sending off they really harmed their chances, especially when they did get themselves back into the game. Fantastic little chip from Lyndon Gooch, and I think if they had 11 men on the pitch, they'd push forward, but they just didn't have the firepower in the end to get themselves kind of back into the game at 2-2. So yeah, that's the only real negative for me is the red card. As Mark said, I think it is avoidable, but there are plenty of positives to take. And even in the games previous, against the likes of Coventry, I think they're Championship ready. I think they've shown that, and yeah, I don't think there's any reason for them to panic at all.
Absolutely, as you say, some fantastic attacking quality in showing that second half. Lyndon Gooch's chip and the move that led to Amadozic sort of setting up that second goal. Marcus, you touched upon it a bit when we talked about the red card. Another win at Bramall Lane for Sheffield United under Paul Heckingbottom. how important is that strong home form going to be for them as they sort of push for promotion this season?
Well, it was a real sort of bedrock that they had last season that enabled them to climb the table as quickly as they did. I don't think squad-wise they're as strong as they were last season. Obviously, still a way to go in the transfer window, but that almost makes their home form even more important. He's really been able to galvanise the home crowd. There was a bit of discontent before he came in with what Slavisa Jokanovic was trying to implement there, and he sort of stripped it back to basics. And one thing that he's really targeted was getting the fans on side and making Bramall Lane as tough a place to come as they possibly can, and that's exactly what they've done so far. A good side in Millwall were not really able to compete there in one of their home wins this season, and Sunderland aside who've generated a lot of positivity after coming up from League One, and they're able to sweep them aside quite comfortably. I think, although it's a good finish from Lyndon Gooch, I'm not quite sure what Wes Fotheringham's doing so far off his line when there are covering defenders. So I think the scoreline could have even been more comfortable. I think the teams with strong home form are always going to be there or thereabouts. I don't expect the Blades to be too poor on the road either. So, despite losing influential player like Gibbs White back to Wolves in the summer, I think that they're looking strong, particularly if they can continue this home form.
We'll move on to perhaps the upset of the week in the Championship there, and that's Reading's 3-0 win against Blackburn. Goals for McIntyre, Hoyler and Lucas Shaw in this one. Adam, a phenomenal response for the Royals from that defeat against Rotherham, that heavy defeat, of course. For you, do you think the best performance under Paul Ince? You're on mute, mate.
Yep. 100%. Even years, I think that's probably one of the best performances that we've had, as fans were saying on social media. We constantly press Blackburn, and it worked completely. You know, they didn't really have an answer to it. You know, even at half time when they made the changes, that Gallagher coming on, and Ryan Hedges as well. They just didn't really have an answer to it. And, there was a bit in the first half, like a 5-minute spell, where I just thought we were superb, and it was the best that we'd looked in years without doubt. So, it was a very exciting performance, a fantastic and phenomenal response, really, to the weekend, a real show of character. And even though it was a really good kind of team performance, I mean, some of the individual performances were superb as well. Shane Long holding the ball up, I thought he doesn't look 35 at all. I think he's going to be a real asset for us this season. Mamadou Loum, who I think is going to be a real game changer for us in the middle of the park. Tyrese Forner played very well as well, and obviously Joe Lumley, to respond the way that he did was fantastic as well, and making a match-winning save at 1-0. But despite the fact that he made that kind of match-winning save, we didn't really call upon him too much, and it was that's one reason why it was a very kind of un-Reading-like performance in recent years, and also putting the game to bed as well, which we have failed to do on so many occasions, and it's come back to punish us. So it was a very great performance, and as I said, just a real show of character, and the vast majority of the players on the night stepped up to the plate very well, so I can have no complaints.
Yeah, plenty of positives, as you say, for Reading fans, Adam. But how important is it having this man, Lucas Shaw, back playing and back in the goals?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. It's important to have, and I said in my 3 things article from earlier that we have perhaps one of the better strike forces in the Championship when you've got Yaku Mete back. As I said, I didn't think that Shane Long was going to be too much of an asset to us. I thought it was going to come back mainly for the nostalgia and the memories, but he's really putting in a shift. And in terms of Lucas Shaw, he's going to score goals. He is injured a lot of the time, and that's the one downside of having him there, really. But when he is fit and firing and on form, then he's kind of an unstoppable force, really, and someone that can help to keep us afloat in the division. So it was a massive boost to have him back. I didn't think we were going to see him for another, at least 1 or 2 weeks. So the fact that we did see him last night and see him actually get 20 minutes, I thought he'd get 5 minutes at most. It was great. And he's going to be a real force for us going forward this season. But he does need to stay fit. Yeah,
Marcus, moving on to Blackburn then. A really disappointing performance from them, who's certainly below the level that we've sort of come to see from them under Jon Dahl Tomasson this season. But in some ways, a defeat was coming because, you know, I think they've just been so clinical this season, and you sort of can't base form and a run of results on being that clinical, can you?
Yeah, I think they'd exceeded most of our expectations right at the beginning of the season. They were clinging on a little bit in their 2-1 win against West Brom at the weekend, and there is a real lack of squad depth in that squad at the moment. So it's not a surprise that with the quick turnaround, they weren't quite able to produce the performance levels that they have done in recent weeks. A bit of a defensive injury crisis well, there's just a gaping hole in the squad at the moment as well. That definitely didn't help it against the dynamic forwards that the Reading had. Just a quick shout out for Junior Hoylett, was outstanding for the Royals, a real player who's settled into a right wing back role much better than I imagined this season at 32. Bit of a championship legend and someone that's really proven himself as a player that Reading can rely on and could be huge if they are to keep their position in the second tier this season. I'm not too concerned about Blackburn. As you say, it was coming. I don't think any of us were predicting some kind of automatic promotion push from them. A little bit of a reality check under Thomason, but something that they can come back from. They did create some chances. I think you've just got to put it down to a strong Reading performance and a game that came at a bad time for Blackburn, I suppose.
We'll move on to our third championship game then. Some high late drama in South Wales. Swansea City 2, Millwall 2. Ryan Manning and Obafemi put the Swans in the lead, but there were own goals from Ben Cabana and Nathan Wood in second half stoppage time. A proper dramatic one, this one. Adam, how do you assess this from a Swansea perspective?
Again, it's the defence, isn't it? It's the defence has to be questioned, and not just that, but their mental strength as well, I think, because you look at the timings of when they've conceded goals, towards the last stages of last season and the early stages of this season, obviously conceding late against Oxford in the Carabao Cup, conceding late as well against Bournemouth. That was another traumatic day for them. And again, away at Reading, they conceded, a few late goals. So, yeah, I think those are the two areas that Martin needs to work on as a matter of urgency, really, that kind of mental strength and that defence. And it's really frustrating for them because they don't really have kind of any problems kind of creating chances, and they have enough goal scoring assets there, with the likes of Perot and Obafemi. So it's a real source of kind of frustration for them. But that they were perhaps lucky not to concede in the first half, obviously with Millwall kind of striking the crossbar as well. So yeah, it's just the defence for me. Going forward, it's they're fine and they're thriving under Martin, but yeah, it's just a massive source of frustration that they can't get their defensive record kind of in shape at the moment. And as long as that continues to be a problem, then there'll be questions about Martin's future, because you can't have the attack right and the defence not right. So yeah, again, as I said, frustrating, but they need to put it right sooner rather than later. Otherwise, they're going to drop points, and it's going to be costly to a potential top 6 push. But at the moment, I don't think they're going to be pushing for that because of their defence.
Yeah, I mean, a comeback on the weekend for Millwall against Coventry, Marcus, 3-2 victory that day. A comeback, of course, against Swansea, and great fight and determination from the Lions. I think summed up best by Ryan Leonard. Sort of massive challenge. I think when they were 2-1 down, he sort of tracks all the way down the pitch, huge slide tackle, and they head back up and get that equaliser eventually. But it's a third game in a row for them that they've gone 2 down inside 30 minutes. For a team that really this year want to sort of push on and challenge for a playoff place, Marcus, they can't keep giving themselves such huge mountains to climb, can they?
No, it's not sustainable at all. You got to praise the spirit. I don't think Rowett gets enough credit for the job that he's done at Millwall over the years, and even just at the start of this season, given the fact that they lost Jed Wallace in the summer. They can't carry on coming back like this. There's going to be stuff for them to work on the training ground, but yeah, you've got to praise the persistence and the belief to carry on chipping away. And as you say, that Ryan Leonard tackle just really typifies what a Gary Rowett side looks like. An element of fortune. It's a great back post header for Ben Cabango to equalise for the Lions, but potentially someone they could laugh off on the training ground. But yeah, potentially more negatives than positives for Millwall, relying on a couple of own goals. I think this performance that, although it lifts morale to pick up a point in the way that they have, looking back on the balance of players, it's probably a little bit worse performance than they were expecting, considering how they've been playing in recent weeks. But I'm not so sure that they should be expected to be competing for a playoffs, but I think that would be an overperformance given the quality in their squad. They have had a good transfer window and could still strengthen, but I think Millwall should be looking at mid-table as a very good season once again, and it's a very good point away at Swansea. On a Wednesday night as well. So yeah, I think they'll just reflect on a good point. All's well that ends well, but I think I come away from this match feeling more positive about.
Fair enough. From South Wales then to the South West, Bristol City 2, Luton Town 0. Goals from Naki Wells and Tommy Conway helped City get their first championship win of the season. Marcus, they've surrendered leads in their first 3 championship games. How important is it that they've held on to this one, given the defensive problems they've had, and despite a red card for Mark Sykes?
Yeah, very important. Bristol City have been one of the most entertaining teams in the last sort of second half of last season, and now immediately at the start of the season, to get a clean sheet under their belts will be very satisfying. But I think that going forward, they've been one of the best sides in the division so far. I think Andy Vyman's right up there in terms of attackers on current form in the league. Tommy Conway's threatening to have a real breakout season in the EFL, just 20 years old, really showed what he could do in the Carabao Cup and is starting to put it together in the league as well. So, yeah, it's impressive that they're able to keep the clean sheet with 10 men. We know the Hatters are very dangerous on any given day. So, no, a very satisfying result for Bristol City and one that feels overdue given the performance that they've had without picking up that crucial first win. So, no, a very impressive result against a team that we probably expect to be competing for a playoff place this season. And yeah, despite losing Mark Sykes, I think that they'll be very content to take the 3 points.
Would you say a satisfying victory and one that sets up the Sunday's 7-side derby really well? Down into League One then, we start in South London. Charlton 5, Plymouth 1. Raksaki, Stockley, Clare, Kirk and Leeburn, the scorers for the Addicts. Well, Whittaker, on loan from Swansea, of course, opens his account for Argyle in style. Another red in this one. James Wilson gets a red at a vital time with Argyle 1-0 down. Coming to you, Adam, what did you make of the decision?
I mean, I honestly thought it was double jeopardy, to be honest. I don't think he meant to put his hand out. Obviously, he's obviously denying a clear goal, so it is a very difficult one. As you say, it comes at a vital time for Charlton. But I think in terms of their kind of overall performance as well, I think it's kind of perhaps not fair on them to perhaps like focusing on that too much, because I thought they were very good value for their victory. I think, you know, some of the pressing was superb. I think, you know, it kind of reminded me of the Ipswich MK Dons game from last kind of weekend. I think that, you know, Plymouth, like MK Dons, were kind of like their worst enemy. And I think in terms of Charlton, they're very similar to Ipswich in terms of the fact that, you know, they pressed very well and they were, you know, direct and energetic and clinical, especially after the red card as well. And I think that, you know, that's the method and the way that they needed to play after the sending off. I think that was probably the best policy for them, and it proved to be true in the end with the 5 goals. But yeah, in terms of the red card, it's a very difficult one. I think James Wilson is very, very unlucky. But in the end, I think even before that, you know, some of Plymouth's kind of unforced errors, I think it was kind of, you know, I don't think it was, you know, perhaps too game changing in the end, but yeah, obviously it does change things. Does change things slightly, and maybe, you know, kind of changes the how emphatic the scoreline was. So yeah, I think Wilson is very unlucky, but you know, he'll hopefully, you know, get back to action very, very soon, and he'll kind of put that behind him, and hopefully Plymouth can put this behind them as well, and perhaps just count this as an off day, because yeah, it wasn't pretty for them this midweek.
Not pretty for Plymouth, Marcus. Charlton, on the other hand, a couple of impressive results recently. That the 1-0 win against Derby, of course, the win on penalties against QPR, which a game which they really dominated. But perhaps this 5-1 win is a sort of result and display that a lot of people were expecting to see. Ghana ball in full flow, if you will, given what we saw at Swindon Town under the manager. It was some performance from the Addicts, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a great way to bounce back from defeat at Sheffield Wednesday at the weekend. It was pretty much a perfect night, outside of not keeping a clean sheet, to get Raksaki, Jayden Stockley and Charlie Kirk all off the mark. Kirk, his first goal for the club, full stop, was very satisfying. And obviously Miles Leaburn adding his second goal off the bench in the league, a real fan's favourite given his history at the club. So yeah, it couldn't have gone much better. Absolute worldie from Sean Clare in there as well. And Ghana actually rotated a little bit as well from the weekend. I thought Sam Lavelle came in and was excellent as he has been since signing, bar the injuries from Morecambe. And Charles Claydon, another youngster coming in and playing in left back, allowing Stephen Sessignon to have a rest, would have been a real boost for Ghana, because he's a player that was a winger really at under 23 level and with some non-league loans in the last few seasons, but due to a lack of a left back, has sort of slotted in there quite nicely, sort of being bedded in under Ghana in pre-season. So no, I think Charlton are going to be an interesting side to follow, with lots of goals potentially going in at both ends this season, and that's shown no signs of stopping at the start of the campaign. So no, yeah, perfect night for Charlton, and the real test comes to see if they can build on it at home to Cambridge on Saturday.
Next, we shift our attention to a game between two promotion hopefuls in League One. Peterborough 2, Sheffield Wednesday 0. Goals from Clark Harrison and Taylor in this one. Another red card, this one for Reece James of Sheffield Wednesday. A high foot, reckless for him. I think unfortunate, perhaps, given he looks to be playing the ball, but I think no complaints there. But Adam, a statement win for Posh against promotion rivals, particularly as many people have levelled at them, myself included. They looked perhaps a team that were likely to sort of run up the score against the lesser teams, but could struggle in games like this. So a big win for them.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think the task was made perhaps a little bit easier by the red card. I think that the substitution, obviously, if you've seen that, if you've not seen the footage of the bias substitution back, then go and watch it, because it's classic, really. But yeah, I just think that the substitution was a little bit strange, to be honest. I think they went perhaps a little bit kind of too defensive Wednesday, and that kind of helped them push to just kind of run forward and kind of take full control of the game. I think for them, obviously a win is a win. Obviously, of course, that their task was made a little bit kind of easier, but again, 3 points is 3 points, and they've struck off perhaps one of the hardest games in League One off the list, because obviously you look at Sheffield Wednesday starting lineup, and you've got some Championship quality in there. So the fact that they did go down to 10 men, really helped their cause, and kind of disrupted their setup. So yeah, and again, Posh showed their class and could have arguably scored more in the end. So yeah, I don't think that Sheffield Wednesday can have any complaints about the red card, really. I don't think Posh could really count themselves too lucky. But yeah, their task was made a little bit simpler. But in the end, 3 points is 3 points. So yeah, that's the main things for Grant McCann's men, and it's something to build on, and it'll certainly give them quite a bit of confidence going forward, even though Sheffield Wednesday were down to 10 men for quite a decent chunk of the game.
Yes, I mean, certainly nothing too much to panic about for Sheffield Wednesday, Marcus, but a fair bit for this man to think about, given all 5 of the goals the Owls have conceded this season have come from the same sort of, in the same manner, really, a sort of stood up cross or a cross from the right flank and an unmarked header in the box. You see that as a concern for Wednesday, or do you feel like it's a reflection of a much changed backline and something that they can sort of iron out fairly easily?
Probably a bit of both. They've brought in Hennigan and Ahikwe to have come straight into that back line, but they're not strikers where you would have been concerned. Defenders where you would have been concerned about their aerial prowess heading into that defence. So yeah, Moore will definitely be scratching his head a little bit about those. I can see them ironing it out over the course of the season. They're not a side that were outstanding defensively last term. They really improved going forward as the season went on, and that enabled them to climb the table. So they don't want to be they don't want to be giving themselves too much to do in terms of getting into that automatic promotion race again. But I think you point to the red card as completely changing the dynamic of the game. I think James was a little bit unfortunate potentially. It was a really clumsy challenge, but I don't think it's maybe that high that maybe warranted the reaction from Ward and the rest of the players on the pitch that brought the red card. But no, it's early days, isn't it? Posh away is going to be one of the tougher games in League One. I'm sure Wednesday can bounce back pretty strong.
We move next to Exeter 3, Wickham 1, goals from Kite, Collins and Dieng and a David Wheeler wonder strike. Marcus, coming back to you, Grecians sort of continue their really impressive start to the season. 7 points from 4 games and 16 goals in all competitions already. They look like they're going to be a lot of fun this season in League One. Did you expect them to sort of settle this well, given they were only promoted last year?
I didn't. They've been a real surprise package for me so far. I was slightly concerned by the lack of transfer business, but the continuity seems to have really helped them. Just shows the quality of the work that Matt Taylor's been putting in over the years, dragging them back up from League Two. That they've been an outstanding watch so far, and hoping that will continue throughout the campaign. A lot of young players in that side as well, a healthy sort of crop of players coming up from the academy as well, which is great to see. They've done it again with Harry Kite in central midfield, a player that only made 14 appearances in League Two last season, has started absolutely flying in the third tier. So Exeter can do no wrong at the moment. I know they lost at Cambridge at the weekend, but what a way to bounce back. Has been a tricky start for Wickham, mind, but no, great to see for the Grecians. Really like taken to League One like a duck to water. I think they'll be all right if they can carry on sustaining this kind of level of performance.
Yeah, as you said, Kite 3 goals for him already, which I think doubles his career tally. As for Wickham, 1 place above the bottom 3, 1 win in 3 for them. Clearly, the hangover of that playoff final defeat causing them some issues. Well, we move into League Two then, and we start with Mansfield 5, Wimbledon 2. Josh Davison's brace inside 16 minutes puts Dons 2 up, but then Oates, Lapsley, Maris, Harbottle and Swan make it 5-2 for Mansfield. Adam, coming to you, Chris Gunter's red card for sort of throwing Stephen Quinn to the ground. Do you see him as a bit unlucky here, given, Quinn sort of booted the ball at him and then sort of gone down fairly dramatically? Or do you see sort of a player of Gunter's experience shouldn't really be making a mistake as he does?
I see it as a bit of both. I find it interesting that they're both former Reading players. Maybe they had a bit of previous there, but in terms of Gunter, it's very unlike him. When I saw the tweet come up on my Twitter feed, I was like, "What the hell's happened there?" Because usually he's a model professional both on and off the pitch. Doesn't usually kind of react. He's a very experienced international, and he might not be everyone's kind of cup of tea as a right back, but he's a professional, and that's one thing that you can give him, and that's why I was surprised to see it. Really, I mean, watching the incident back, I can't blame him fully for reacting. Maybe he should have done a little bit better. I think actually Stephen Quinn's a little bit lucky not to receive further punishment for what he did. Kicking the ball at Gunter's head, I think may have been a red card offence. Perhaps I'm not. Maybe other people would have a different opinion of that. But kicking the ball at his head, I thought was very dangerous. So I can see both sides. A lot of people would say he should do better. A lot of people, would kind of not really blame him for reacting. So it's a half and half one. But you just hope even as an experienced player that he learns from that. Obviously, as a footballer, you kind of stop learning really. So hopefully he just kind of learns from that and takes it forward, for the rest of the season and beyond.
Yeah, we've got a comment in on that from Connor Sheridan. He says, "I would have said it should have been a yellow for Gunter, but as one of our most experienced players, he should know not to do that." I mean, Adam, I'm sure Sir Alex Ferguson would have disagreed with you. That famous could have killed him, of course, when the ball was booted at Robin van Persie. And Marcus, coming to you, a big win and a reminder of Mansfield's quality after perhaps a slow start to the season for a team that are fancied by many to push for the title this season. But we shouldn't forget, should we, that they've played Salford, Tranmere, Orient and now Wimbledon.
Yeah, definitely. We shouldn't be reading too much into results in the league table at this stage. They were very good despite the 1-0 defeat at Leyton Orient at the weekend. Missed a penalty. It was a game that really could have gone the other way. So no, I'm feeling quite good about Mansfield at the moment. I fully expect them to be contending for a top 3 place. They were so good in the second half of last season. We're almost on automatic promotion form after that slow start after Nigel Clough, and to win as handsomely should definitely be able to increase their belief. There was some pretty poor defending from Wimbledon, it has to be said. Goals from set pieces that will frustrate Johnny Jackson, but to come back from 2 goals down after 16 minutes, it was 2-2 before the red card as well. Will be very satisfying for them on their home patch. So no, a momentum building win for Mansfield, and one that they should be able to build on in coming weeks.
Yeah, Adam, as Marcus said, too early to read too much into results and league position. Obviously frustrating for Dons to throw away a 2-goal league again. We've had commenting again, a question from Connor Sheridan. How do you guys think AFC Wimbledon will get on this season? So Adam, do you think playoffs is a possibility for them still?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, coming forward, I thought, they were really kind of excellent. Even against Doncaster, I thought they looked exciting with Assal and the like. And even going forward in the early stages of midweek, Josh Davison getting himself on the score sheet a couple of times. Obviously, it helps that obviously that Jackson and Davison know each other from Charlton, but. I think there is great potential there, but again, it's like Swansea City in the Championship. It's like I have no real kind of worries about the attack. I think it's just the defense at times, and kind of perhaps the mental strength as well. Obviously Doncaster was a massive blow, and the way that they reacted to that in the early stages of this game, was good. But then they show that kind of mental weakness again, and obviously the penalty is a real game changer, and obviously the red card is as well. So yeah, it's very frustrating for them. Obviously, you've got the likes of the experience of Alex Pearce and Chris Gunter. Having them in League Two is going to be valuable, but it's frustrating for them because they're not getting results on the board when they perhaps would want them. They'd want at least quite a few points on the board by now. But there's plenty of time left in the season. That's the one positive for them, and they have all the chances in the world to get themselves back into contention.
Absolutely. We'll move to our final game and that's Salford 3, Newport 2. Salford take the lead through Bolton and Norman own goal. Then Newport fought back with goals from Bennett and Bogle to level, but it's Ryan Leake's 83rd minute winner from the bench to ensure Salford stave off that Newport comeback to take top spot. Marcus, looking at Newport and Salford so far, early days, but certainly 2 teams with opposite fortunes.
Yeah, once again, I think Newport are playing quite well, to be honest. They've come out on the wrong side of this one. They battered Walsall at home a couple of weeks ago and ended up losing 1-0, I think. So I do think it will turn for the Exiles. I do believe in what James Robury's doing there. It was quite a scrappy game in the end. I think a lot of goals just sort of been forced over the line with ricochets, etc. But it was a really eye-catching performance from Luke Bolton for Salford. I think a goal and an assist. His dribbling ability and the finish for the first goal definitely looked like a player that's capable of playing above League Two level. I think he's only 22, Manchester City Academy graduate, so definitely one to keep an eye on in League Two. But yeah, in terms of Newport's early season form, I'm not too concerned. We know how evenly matched League Two is. A few wins on the string and you can be right back in contention. So no, an entertaining match between 2 sides that I expect to be well in and around the top 7 picture this season.
Well, that is everything from myself, Marcus and Adam on the EFL midweek review. But at 4 p.m, it's the EFL transfer zone. You'll be in the capable hands of our chief editor, Sam Rock, again. So make sure you tune in for that. That leaves me to say thanks to Marcus and Ali, and thanks everyone for watching.